Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 133 of the Run in the Paint podcast. I'm Miles here with Ben, Joey, and Nick. Guys, how are you doing today?
Feeling good, feeling great. First off-season pod. Here we go. I'm sad. It
Yeah,
was a
Nick,
fun
how are you
season,
doing?
though.
Yeah, man, we're back in the off season for the first time. What a great regular season, or not regular, entire NBA season.
Absolutely. Ben, how about you? How are you feeling today?
Doing well and guess I'm interested in seeing what happens in the off season here.
Yeah, it's set up to be a crazy offseason after we wrap up what really was a historic 2024-25 season. We have an NBA champion to talk about now here on the full podcast as the Oklahoma City Thunder won Game 7 of the finals on Sunday to win their first championship since moving to OKC. We'll talk about that. We have to talk about the unfortunate Tyrese Halliburton injury. We have a whole trade to talk about with this guy over here and the NBA draft tomorrow. All this stuff to talk about here today. But before we get into it, let's do our first PERTL of the off season and let's see if we can get off to a good start. Nick, who is our first lucky guess today?
I'm going with KCP because I have high hopes for the Magic this year.
KCP recently traded away. Okay. Not bad. We've got some information here. So this guy is going to be in the Western Conference, going to be a 6'4 or 6'3 guard who's below 30 years old and either the number 2 or the number 1. We should be able to get this in 2. Let's see if we can.
A younger, not super young, but could be super young Western Conference guard with a low number who's, in the medium height range for guards.
Yeah, so
How,
not a midget by any means.
how
It
tall
is.
is Pods?
Pods.
He's
Oh,
number 2, right?
I
shoot,
think
he
he's
might be 6'4 or 6'5.
Oof. Too close, but yeah.
Is that too
Pods is
close
not a
for
bad
Pods?
guess.
I don't know.
That's not bad. Let's see if I keep going. Just thinking about
What about
choosing
Anthony Simons? I think he
Anthony
wears one,
Simons.
right?
Ooh.
I do think we have quite a decently big pool of options here to choose from.
Yeah.
Like my first thought was CJ McCollum. He might be too old.
Yeah.
But he's
I think,
also
I
number
think he's
3.
too old. Harden's too old.
yeah, Harden's too old. Okay, so I
Should
guess
we go?
between what Pajemski and Anthony Simons, who do we want to try to guess?
I'll vote for Simons.
I'll go Simons, yeah.
All right,
All
we'll
right,
go
we'll do that.
Anthony Simons. Number
Oh,
1. All right, not in the Northwest Division, but it's going to be a 6'3 guard that wears the number 1 and super young. So let's see.
Where's
Number 1.
De'Aaron Fox? Wasn't Fox
No,
the one?
he's
Fox is
young
number
now.
4 now.
And he's also too old. Now.
Yeah, true. It's going to be 23 or younger.
Is
Yeah.
AR? Oh, 23 or younger. Where's the number 1?
Ooh, Memphis Grizzlies, Scottie Pippen Jr. wears the number 1, but I don't know. He might be short.
No, that sounds right. No, because he's been only in the league for 5 or less years, which would make him 18. He was the youngest freshman in the SEC. I just did Trey Johnson mock draft video.
That's a
and he was
pretty good pick.
He was a leading SEC scorer, and Scottie Pippen, Dalton Connect, Brandon Miller, now Trey Johnson have been the last 4 leading SEC freshmen. So I think that's a good pick.
Could be. Let's try it. Scottie Pippen Jr. Oh man,
really?
He is a 6'1 guard. All right, so in the Southwest Division, so it's going to be one of the Texas teams or New Orleans. New Orleans is Zion, so not him. San Antonio.
Steph Castle?
I think he's number 5, and that's why Fox wore the number 4. Spurs number 1. I don't think Houston.
I don't think Wemby is a guard.
Oh, no, right. Houston number 1 is Amen Thompson. Dallas number 1 is Jaden Hardy.
Sounds about right.
That works. That works.
Yeah,
I think it's Jaden Hardy.
Jaden Hardy in
There it
4.
is.
Yeah,
All
there
right,
it is.
we were close, just couldn't get right
Mm.
on the money, but overall not bad. Jaden Hardy in 4. Let us know how long it took you guys to get Jaden Hardy. And now let's get into Game 7 of the finals, our final real game recap here of the season. Game 7 of the NBA Finals. OKC defeated Indiana 103-91 to take home the championship, of course, in 7 games. You heard Ben and I talk about it on the recap yesterday. Here are in-depth thoughts on the game and the Thunder winning it overall. Joey, let's start with you. For OKC, just them overall winning this series and winning the championship, what were your initial reactions to the Thunder getting it done?
Well deserved, well earned. They were the best team all season long in the entire NBA, and they finished it off as that. Kind of expected. It's just very unfortunate that I think it's going to be overshadowed on what happened in that beginning because it was Game 7 and it was so early on. There are so many people that are going to be like, well, if he didn't do that and if this didn't happen, which you can't do ifs because this did happen and this is the result. This is final. It just kind of sucks in general because this was a phenomenal finals all around. Each game was almost must watch. The series went back and forth every game. It was a phenomenal series, and everything is lived and told by game sevens when you have it, aka like the 2016. Every year I almost watched like the last 6 minutes or 3 minutes or whatever it was of that game, and that's how I remember that series by. It's going to be the same thing because it happened with this. Is everyone's going to be like, well, that game 7 is when Halliburton continued the stretch of the cursed number 0 in the 2025 playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely, Nick. I think later we'll talk about OKC's performance in this game, but I guess we do kind of need to start with the Halliburton injury because that is probably the thing that we're going to remember from this game. I mean, it's just really unfortunate with how he started. He came out really aggressive. We were all talking about how he needed to play like that. He was about as aggressive as we have seen him come out to start the game, hitting 3 threes in just his 7 minutes that he played. Nick, it's just unfortunate what happened in that first quarter.
Yeah. He was supposed to hit a game winner in Game 7 to win the final. That was what was supposed to happen. Just a brutal sort of, circumstance thing. I've been talking to you guys and people around me. It's just like it's almost not even as difficult to watch like the injury isn't as like gruesome to me as it is to watch his reaction. Like that is the gruesome part to me is to watch just everything you've worked for come crashing down in 1 minute, in 1 second, in the most important second. Yeah, it's horrible. But at the same time, OKC was a deserving champion. And like you said, Joey, it was just back and forth the whole way. It was a very fun series to watch and unfortunate that it ended this way. Indy just came up a little bit short. I don't think Halliburton was worth the 21-point deficit that they found themselves down by in the third quarter. And I think that OKC won the game. But it was incredible to watch.
Yeah, I mean, the third quarter is really where things turned around because after the injury, Pacers hung in there like we've seen them do all playoffs long. They actually had the lead at halftime, a 1-point advantage after Andrew Nembhard hit a crazy step back 3. And then, Ben, you and I talked about it yesterday, the third quarter where OKC just forced a ton of turnovers and basically shut down everyone for the Pacers besides TJ McConnell. It was just an incredible third quarter by the Thunder, and it allowed them to pull away there and clinch this championship.
Yeah, that was just incredible lockdown defense by the Thunder, as we said yesterday. And I believe it was for like 13 straight game minutes, something like that. TJ McConnell was the only one who scored baskets for the Pacers. Like, man, that's rough there for the Pacers. I mean, I think that's what really costed them that stretch there.
Yeah, there's no question. I think the third quarter is what turned the game. And Joey, like you said, I mean, yes, Halliburton got injured in the first quarter. Would the Pacers have won if he was healthy? Maybe, maybe not. You can't play the if game because then there'd be a different champion and a different outcome for every year and for every person you talk to. I mean, and the Thunder won this game fair and square, and the third quarter was a big reason.
110%. It's a shame. TJ McConnell, man, always doing what he can in that third quarter every game this series. It seemed like just to do it, but yeah, it seemed they just ran out of it. Oh, like Nick said, OKC won this game. They're well deserving, and I don't know, man. I saw we all kind of saw this coming and how it was gonna be. Like I predicted OKC to win originally. I really I thought I was gonna be a genius because I thought I was predicting all the last ones at the end and dang, but like I said, well deserved for OKC, man. Well deserved.
Yeah, absolutely a deserving champion. Nick, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just saying, I always try and look at these big sort of games, even just the finals in general. Like you go back to the NCAA championship, Houston versus Florida, as a lens of toughness versus talent. And I always root for toughness, and Indiana was the toughness part of this equation here, because OKC had the MVP and 68 wins and the big three. And I just want to say that now two times in the last 2 months between the NCAA championship, Florida winning, and the talent winning, and now OKC winning this week. Like you can't take it away from the talent. You can't take it away from them because they did it. And like J Dub had 2 points at halftime. He finished with 17. They had 15 points in the second half. Shea was averaged probably 30 points a night in the whole series. And Chet was a shell of himself, but yet was like one of the most impactful players every time he stepped on the court. Like he was a shell of the player he could be in this series. He had 2 points in game 6 and was just, not great throughout, but he made a huge impact just because like that he's talented as hell.
Yeah, and the defensive play of Chet Holmgren had the 5 blocks in Game 7. He was huge. He had his best game of the series when his team needed it, and it was huge. Shea and J-Dub, with their play this series, as crazy as it sounds, it's going to go down as one of the best performances by a duo in finals history. The crazy stat, Ben and I saw this after the game, that Shea and J-Dub had the second most points by a duo in any finals in history, only trailing LeBron James and Kyrie Irving in the 2016 NBA Finals. So it was a historic performance for those two guys. Shea averaged 30 points per game in the finals, winning Finals MVP. J-Dub 23 points per game, and all their guys played very well. But I want to go back to the point you said, Nick, about the toughness versus talent. I think you're definitely right on that.
Well, can I add
But
something?
yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Because like the talented part of that, they require toughness too to win. Like all that stuff I described about Chet, Shea, and J Dub, that's toughness too. It's just looked at a little bit differently because they have the talent and they're the expected to win and they're not the underdog.
Yeah, absolutely. That's kind of where I was going to go to. I mean, the third quarter and the fourth quarter, where they forced 22
Right.
Indiana turnovers in this game.
Yeah.
A lot of that is toughness
Yeah.
from OKC and kind of a lack of toughness from Indiana on the other side that we haven't really seen all playoffs long. I mean, even obviously, this scenario has never happened before where you're in game 7 of the finals and one of your star players goes down with a horrific injury in the first quarter and he's out for the game. I mean, that's a huge gut punch, but you have to be able to play through that in this sort of scenario. I mean, Obi Toppin after the game literally said he was thrown off because his guy was, injured and he felt like it was his fault that it got to that point. And for other players, like for TJ McConnell, he had a great game. He was able to have the toughness to get through it. And for this Pacers team specifically, because of this injury, we'll get to the future. You just don't know when you're ever going to get this opportunity again to win a championship. This is the closest the Pacers have ever gotten to winning an NBA title. And yes, Halliburton's injury was a huge factor, but they needed to have the toughness to be able to fight through that. I mean, none of their starters had a standout game. Their two best players were Benedict Mathurin and TJ McConnell, who both played very, very well. But Ben, I think, guys like Pascal Siakam, Miles Turner, Aaron Nesmith needed to have the mental toughness to be able to fight through for their guy for that one night in game 7.
Yeah, they did. And no, I think these guys tried their best. I would have liked some more aggressiveness in the ball in Siakam's hands more. But, I mean, I got to give credit to OKC's defense. They just defended super well all throughout that game. They shut down Siakam. They did a great job guarding Siakam, and really, that was just tough for the Pacers. They just couldn't do much offensively just because of that defense.
Nope, they could not, and that's really how they've played all season long with their defense, getting it done. One of the best defensive teams that we have ever seen. It's just incredible being able to watch this team come up over the last few seasons after, them having the Durant and Westbrook and Harden big three. Then it was Westbrook by himself, then Paul George, to turn into the rebuild and then built back up by Sam Presti. He was able to have a second chance at a rebuild, and it definitely paid off, Joey. I mean, the Thunder, they looked scary all season long. I mean, I know I picked them to win the championship at the beginning of the season. You two had them in the finals at the very least as well, so we knew that this was definitely a possibility. But to see it come to fruition after a couple dark years for them, it's just been fun to watch. As a unbiased fan of that team.
100%, 110%. Very happy for that fan base as well. I'm still a big Seattle fan, so low key, I'm like, kind of wish Seattle still had it. But again, that crowd and that fan base in Oklahoma City is as deserving as any other team. Indiana would have been just as deserving. Honestly, both these franchises, both these teams and fan bases, just both deserve this. And honestly, this probably won't be the first time. I know it's like you said, it's the closest that Indiana's ever been, but they're still a young team. They're definitely. It's not like they're completely out of it now. Going into the year's future, maybe next year because Halliburton's going to be out for a year, but.
And then you got contract stuff. I mean, the windows in today's league are just not.
All windows are super small, yeah, but you can't count it out because that's the thing. We thought last year was like, oh man, this was going to be Indiana's chance because there's no way they're going to be able to make it again because it was kind of a fluke last year, and here they go, even better. So I'm just saying, keep your eye. Just never. I'm done sleeping on Indiana after how they proved me all year wrong and in the playoffs. Like I'm low key just done sleeping on them, even though they lost. Mad respect.
Seattle will be back soon too.
True.
Because the Lakers just sold for $10 billion.
Yeah,
and if they make an expansion team like that, I heard that money gets split between all the owners.
It does.
That is insane.
It does.
Yeah, so it'll help the league out for sure.
Yeah.
That bit of news. But no, the Pacers, I guess we could talk a little bit about their outlook in the summer now because things are definitely different, right? Just from one day. I mean, going into this series, it was reported before game 1 that the Pacers, who have some big decisions to make this summer with Miles Turner being an unrestricted free agent and some other guys as well, but Turner being the big guy there, that the Pacers were going to be open to spending money into the tax for the first time in, a good 20, 25 years since they've made it to this point. Now with the Halliburton injury, it kind of makes things a little bit difficult. I mean, Nick, what do you think? Do you think that the Pacers will still look to re-sign Miles Turner to a higher price point, even with this injury to Tyrese Halliburton?
I think I would have to look at the rest of their roster and see if, their window would be open a year from now. Can you run it back next year without Hallie and just kind of make it a development growth year for everybody else except for Hallie, and then also plan to bring everybody back the year following? How long is Ben Shepherd under contract? How long is Mather going to be there? I feel really good about their 10, 11 group that they had. I don't know if you can keep that group together a whole, I don't know. I think the window's closed because of the injury. No.
You know what's interesting about this Pacers team, not even just this year, but in the last 20 years, it feels like every time where they reach the pinnacle of being right there, something happens, something unfortunate happens to where the team kind of falls back down. I'll name two instances. I'll go
Paul
back to
George.
the early, yeah, you can go to Paul George, where they make two Eastern Conference Finals in 2013, 2014. Similar this year, they go back to back conference finals. This year, they go to the finals. Paul George snaps his leg in the summer, and the next season, before he, comes back, David West gone. George Hill, not as good as he was. Lance Stevenson, gone. Roy Hibbert, gone. And the team is completely different.
I'll do you even one more on top of that. 25 years ago, when they made the finals, the Malice at the Palace, you could ask anybody from that team, and they were ready to go to the finals. That was the best team they had. They said even better than the one that made the finals the couple years prior. But after the Malice at the Palace, half that team got suspended for the rest of the year, and Reggie was recovering from injury. So all they had to do was wait, and that happens. And now they had to wait another 20 years.
Yeah, in 2000 they make the finals. The next 3 years they're out in the first round, but then that 2004 team with Rick Carlisle as the head coach wins 61 games. That might be a franchise. That's got to be a franchise record. Yes, most wins in franchise history for the Pacers in 2004. They lose in the Eastern Conference Finals to the Pistons, who ended up winning the title against the Lakers that year. And then, couple weeks into the season in Detroit, ironically enough, Malice at the Palace happens. That was Reggie Miller's final season,
Yep.
and then that's it for the era of that team. So those are two instances where they reached the pinnacle, probably the two best chances that franchise has had, where prior to this year, where something unfortunate happens and it's even over. Even to a lesser extent, 2018, Victor Oladipo, after his All-Star season, most improved, leg injury. By the time he's healthy again, Bojan Bogdanovic gone, Darren Collison gone, Thaddeus Young gone, and it's completely different and things shake up again. So it's difficult for that team. I mean, they reach the pinnacle and then something happens to where they may not get back to that point. Something that is different with this team, though, is that Siakam is under contract. Aaron Nesmith is under contract. Miles Turner is a guy that they'd have to re-sign this year. We'll see what type of money he's able to get, because whether you love him or hate him, one win away from being a championship center, which is crazy to say. So that's a pretty good, starting point in negotiations, for him. And then the other decisions they have to make this offseason. Isaiah Jackson, their normal backup center, he had an Achilles injury at the beginning of the year. They'll have to re-sign him, see how much he could, get for them. Thomas Bryant is an unrestricted free agent. And then Benedict Mathurin will be eligible for I believe, a 4-year extension. So we'll see what that looks like for him. I think it's going to be a big year for Mathurin, because now with Halliburton out, you could probably presume that their starting five next year is going to look like Nembhard at the point. He'll probably have to be the full-time point guard. Mathurin can run the two, and then Nesmith, Siakam, and Turner if he resigns. And we'll see what Mathurin can do as a full-time starter until Halliburton gets back. But either way, it's just a super tough injury, Ben, and it changes the whole outlook for this Pacers team going forward.
Yeah, definitely a tough injury. It stinks that they won't have him next year to, try make another run at it to the finals to try and win a championship. And I still think the Pacers are going to be a good team. I'm not going to completely count them out, but uh, it will be tough though with Halliburton not being able to play next year, though. That's for sure.
Yeah, they'll be a team that I think will still be good. I mean, the Pacers have been a team that's been consistently good for like 30 years. So I don't think they'll bottom out or anything like that. They are a super deep team. It's a big reason why they made it to this point. And incredibly enough, a few days ago, they made a trade during the finals, before this injury happened, that's going to be huge for them. A few days ago, I think before it was either game 5 or game 6,
Yeah.
they traded away their 23rd overall pick in this year's draft to New Orleans to get their own first round pick back for next season. So now they
Right.
have their own pick back. So if need be and they need to bottom out, I don't think that'll happen, but if they need to, they have their own pick. They have control over it now.
Did someone
It's funny
leak the
how-
script to the Pacers beforehand? Is that what happened? They saw, oh no, well, we got a little look at it, and they're like, oh no, something bad's gonna happen. Game 7, we gotta be ready.
It is funny how that looks in retrospect now.
Yeah,
Right.
so it works out that they'll have their own first round pick for next year if they want to do that. But either way, incredible run for the Pacers. I said on the recap yesterday that outside of any Cavs run, because that's our team, the 2025 Pacers, this is my favorite playoff run for any team since I've been a fan, even though it
Get it
ran
right.
through our team.
Have some respect. It's the yes sirs. It's the yes
the
sirs.
yes
Yes, sirs. Yes,
Yes, sir.
sirs.
That's right. That's my favorite run for any team. So a lot of respect to them. The way they play on both ends. I mean, it's been so fun to watch, and all the comebacks, the heroics. Honestly, being on the other side of one of those shots and series made it kind of more fun for this team because you could feel what it was like to be on the great side of a comeback shot and then on the heartbreaking end of it as well. So it was incredibly fun to watch, and one of the great playoff runs that we've seen in a long time. Definitely an unexpected run. So congrats to the Pacers.
I do have one thing to add on that, just because I was talking about it at dinner tonight. Like, I referenced the story today at dinner because I was explaining I played baseball in college, and I had a home run hit off me like during the fall right before I quit my freshman year. That it just felt like I knew it was gonna happen. Like, I was sitting there on the mound and everything was just lining up, and I'm like, I just got a bad feeling. And not every time the Pacers did that, but when Tyrese hit the step back on the Cavs, I was like, I can almost see that coming. And it was just like this whole Pacers run, it was so special because you almost like came to expect the unexpected. That was what I would take away from this run, honestly.
No, 100%, dude. I was the same way when I was working in the kitchen. Me and my one manager Dennis, we would always just be talking about the game before, like yeah, as long as Indiana keeps it within 15 to 20, even if it's going into the fourth quarter, we know what's going to happen. We know it's going to be a game.
That's why even in game 7, it was a 21-point lead a few minutes into the fourth quarter. And, some people may have thought it's over. Even with Halliburton out, Pacers made a run. They gave it all they could in the last few minutes to cut it down to like a 10-point game. And they made the Thunder make some plays to close it out. So Pacers just kept on fighting. And I think that's what this team is going to be remembered for. And maybe these playoffs, like the Pacers might be remembered before the Thunder, who actually won it because of all the things that they did in these playoffs. So just incredible. Shout out to the Pacers and congratulations to the Oklahoma City Thunder for winning the 2025 NBA Finals. 7th different champion in the last 7 years. And now we can close the book on an incredible NBA season, man. What a fun ride it was with all the incredible unexpected trades that we got. Luka Doncic got traded this season. The incredible teams jumping up like our Cavs, our boy Goglin's Houston Rockets that we're about to get to in a little bit, and then the incredible playoff heroics by Indiana and Tyrese Halliburton. Just one of the more memorable seasons of the last few. I mean, this might have been one of the best seasons maybe in the last 3 to 4 years. It was so much fun.
Definitely one of the most chaotic seasons in recent memory.
Yep.
Yeah, no question about it. So let's get in to this blockbuster trade that hit on Sunday, Game 7 of the Finals. Got the news that Kevin Durant finally traded from the Phoenix Suns. We knew maybe for the last 4 months that he was going to be on the move. The question was where? And the answer is the Houston Rockets. The Suns traded Kevin Durant to the Rockets for Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, the 10th overall pick in tomorrow's NBA draft, and 5 second-round picks, including the 59th pick in this year's draft, 2 second-round picks next year, the Celtics' 2030 second-round pick, and the Rockets' 2032 second-round pick. Houston going all in, getting Kevin Durant. Ben, what was your initial reaction to seeing that KD was on his way to the Rockets?
I wasn't too surprised. I was thinking the Rockets had a good chance at getting him, and when I saw it, I was like, "Wow, this is awesome for the Rockets. This was just like exactly what they needed." And it wasn't too bad either with what the Rockets had to give up too either. And yeah, Durant, he's just a great fit on that team. I mean, he could be their number one scorer next year, and he's good at spacing the floor. That was exactly what the Rockets needed to upgrade at this offseason. And for the Suns, I was kind of surprised that like they weren't getting like I guess a more bigger package back, but I mean that's what they agreed on with the Rockets. So yeah,
Yeah, I mean, so for the Rockets, Joey, I mean, yeah, as Ben said, Kevin Durant, we knew all season long, even with the incredible run that the Rockets went on, being the number 2 seed, taking the Warriors to 7 games in the first round, they needed a go-to guy. We talked about it all regular season long. For the first half of the year, Jimmy Butler was who we were thinking was maybe need to be on the Rockets. Kevin Durant later on, and it ends up being Durant for this team. They needed a go-to guy, and even heading into his age 37 season, the guy is still a bucket. He's still incredible.
Dude's a walking bucket. There no all he has to do is dribble up, pull up, shoot, and he'll make it literally 80% of the time, no matter if someone's guarding him or not. So he's just a walking bucket. It's perfect. What like you said, it's exactly who they need. They just always need Jalen Green was always a solid scoring option, but we saw it in the that first round of the playoffs, the inconsistency firsthand. One game he'll go for 20 plus 30 something, and then the next game like 3. Like they if you want to be better and have a better team, you need to have someone consistently scoring, and KD is perfect for them. So yeah, just crazy good job by the Rockets. That's who I wanted him to go to as well, personally, just because I thought it was kind of just the most perfect fit. I'm just. Is it too early to say we might have a new GFF on the way?
I was thinking about that too, but we'll get to the Sun side. We'll get to the Sun side of things in a little bit. To the consistency point, Jalen Green in the playoffs averaged 13 points per game in a series where he had 38 points in game 2, and he averaged 13 in a 7-game series. That shows how inconsistent he was. And Nick, now they have one of the most consistent scorers in the history of the game.
Yeah, I do think the fit is solid for Houston. The only thing that I worry about a little bit is if like Fred and Amen Thompson and whoever else is going to be able to are they going to be able to dominate the ball enough to keep KD optimized off the ball on the wing, like getting all those buckets, or is he going to have to press at all with the offensive firepower that's left here after you deal Jalen Green? I honestly saw this trade. I'm like, wow, I didn't know both teams could get worse from a deal. And I'm like,
what?
Interesting.
Not heard that take yet. Lose.
Interesting.
I mean, I think Jalen Green, I think Kevin Durant is Eon's Miles, but I think he's going to be a much better player for the Rockets, and I do think that they got better now. But I think that Jalen on the team that you had, you were a 2 seed, another year with some more continuity. I think there was maybe a little bit of runway left for Jalen Green on this team, and giving up 5 seconds isn't a huge. It's not a great package back for KD. You didn't give up a whole ton, but you did give up 5 seconds and this year's first, and someone who I think had maybe a little bit of runway left. Wasn't ever going to take you to where you're at, but you did have you had the 10th pick in this draft. So
Yeah, so I think that the Rockets, this was a home run hit for them because of the things that they didn't have to give up. I mean, at the end of the day, Jalen Green making $33 million and being a inefficient scorer for 4 years when he's had the chance to improve a little bit better. I mean, at this point, he hasn't really shown enough for him to be all right. He's untouchable. He cannot be moved. And Kevin Durant is someone that can elevate this team to that. And you look at the things that they didn't have to give up. Jabari Smith, not in the trade. Tari Eason, Cam Whitmore, Reed Shepard, none of the
Yeah.
other future Phoenix picks. I mean, when you take a look at the value that they gave up Jalen Green, who I personally think they probably wanted off the roster. I honestly don't think they're going to miss him at all. Dylan Brooks, I think they are going to miss for that team. I think that he was a pretty good get for Phoenix. They lose a little bit of their toughness with losing Dylan Brooks, but the 10th pick, like their third overall pick last year, couldn't sniff the rotation last year. It's not like their 10th pick was going to be playing for them this year either. It's much more valuable to the Suns than for the Rockets. So for the fact that they really didn't give up much of anything besides Dylan Brooks and an inconsistent score, this is a home run hit. And if it doesn't work, so what? You still have future assets to trade if you want to make another move going forward. I still think that there are a little bit of clunky fits to this roster. Like, there is still a lack of three-point shooting on this team. I mean, Durant is a great three-point shooter, of course, but he's more of a mid-range type of scorer. He gets his stuff in the two-point mid-post area. Fred VanVleet, Jalen Green, and Dylan Brooks were your best three-point shooters last year, and Brooks was your best one last year, and that's a little iffy, and you still need some shooting, and there's a lack of two guards as well. So there's still some moves, I think, to be made for this team, but I think it was the right decision that they made this move.
I honestly could see them making a couple more moves this offseason just to address that 3-point need, like you said, just because it is now glaring that two of your top three-point scoring last year are now gone. I know you replace, like you said, you replace it with Kevin Durant, but still. Fred VanVleet and KD, those are your top two. That's it.
It was even iffy that Green and Brooks were your best shooters last year.
Literally.
So I think that there is still some moves to be made. I mean, one of the good moves that they made already is that they took Steven Adams out of the free agent market. They already re-signed him for 3 years, $39 million. He's still one of the best rebounders in the league. Those double big lineups in the Golden State series with him and Şengün were lethal. It was a big reason why they nearly came back from a 3-1 deficit in the first round. And Adams was huge. Yeah. So that was a big thing to re-sign him. Now the next step for them is going to be figuring out the Fred VanVleet contract, because he's on a $44 million contract last year. He has a team option for this year. Most likely the Rockets are going to need to decline it to renegotiate a more team-friendly deal, because this team is quickly becoming a very expensive team. Now getting Durant's $54 million, you're probably going to sign him to the 2-year extension. I'm guessing. I don't think that this deal gets done without the commitment that Durant would sign there for a couple of seasons. And then Şengün's extension is going to kick in. He's going to jump up from the rookie deal to the max. So automatically this team is going to become very expensive. So they're going to need to make sure that VanVleet is on more of a team-friendly deal. But overall, I mean, this jumps them up a couple tiers, I feel like. To me, even though they were a 2 seed last year, I didn't really think of them as much of a threat to like win a title or a series even in the Western Conference. Now I think this could make them a championship contender. Ben, what do you think?
Yeah, I would say this makes them a contender going into next year, and I think they could win a playoff series or two potentially next year. I think they're going to be even better and a great team that's tough to beat. I think they're still going to be super good defensively, and I think they'll be better offensively too, especially now with a number one scorer there in Kevin Durant. So they can definitely use some better 3-point shooting guys. That is a area of weakness after looking over the roster here. A few guys for them just now, but I think they'll be even better in one of the better teams in the Western Conference next year.
Joey, where do the Rockets rank in the Western Conference to you? Maybe not like list wise, but maybe in tiers. Because I know obviously OKC just winning the title. They're on a tier of their own. We saw that they were 16
Yeah.
games above the Rockets. They're on a tier of their own until another team proves otherwise. But after that, where does Houston go in the Western Conference? Are they second tier, third tier, below that? What do you think?
I think they're right on the edge of that third tier to second tier almost. I think they're at the top of that tier 3, where I obviously have to see it to believe it because, well, when KD joined the Suns and it was this kind of thing, we all thought the same kind of thing. So I don't want to hand them the keys right now, but they're definitely close. I got to see it first, just because you never know. But I don't know. This team, like I said, this was kind of the missing puzzle piece. Now they just need to fill in a couple of those 3-point shooting, maybe get another enforcer back, or I don't know, man. I love seeing that the last 2 guys to play for the Seattle Supersonics still in the league, now on the same team again. So it just makes me super happy.
Yeah, very, very true. And something that I want to mention there, of course, Durant, the last few places that he's gone hasn't worked out. Obviously, Brooklyn, unfortunate injuries in that case, but Phoenix was just a disaster.
Yeah.
But in those previous scenarios, he has been on, veteran teams. This is the first time he's been on a super young squad and having to lead a young team in a very long time, probably since he was a young guy himself. And this is not going to be like Brooklyn or Phoenix, where the Rockets are going to trade away their young guys to bring in another star from outside. This is going to be the team. So I think that there's more of a chance that it works this time, since we know they are not trading away Şengün or Thompson. That's not going to happen. But Nick, what do you think? Where do you think the Rockets could be in the Western Conference after this trade?
Honestly, like you said, OKC's in a tier by themselves. I think they're in the second tier with everybody else from Houston to Golden State to LA to no one knows what New Orleans is doing next year. I'd throw them in there. Like, I think anybody who isn't OKC has a shot to knock them off. Like, I think OKC's the favorite. And I mean, if I had to pick a few teams to name in the West, it'd be like, yeah, Houston's up there with San Antonio and sort of like Denver probably for me.
Yeah, that's probably where I have them as well. I have them probably in the second tier so far, along with Denver and Minnesota, since they've been good in the playoffs the last couple of seasons. Then third tier, then it kind of goes, it could be anyone there right now. I mean, it's so wide open and it's so crazy after the Thunder at the first spot. You mentioned the Spurs. Dallas should be a lot better getting Cooper Flag and healthy, when Kyrie Irving gets back. The Clippers were good. Lakers, Warriors, those teams under there as well. But right now, Rockets, I think, in tier 2. But I agree with Joey that I would like to see it first because there are some questions. There are still some questions. I am, excited to see how Kevin Durant plays under Ime Udoka. Those guys have a connection going back to the year in Brooklyn and Team USA, so he's with a coach that he's used to. But again, I said it before, him leading a young team, there have been times where I feel like he's kind of shied away from being that number 1 leader on previous teams. And
it's going to be Fred VanVleet's team.
Yeah,
it's going to be Fred VanVleet.
Yeah, Fred VanVleet and Jeff Green are going to be like the vocal leaders in the locker room here, unless Kevin Durant steps up as the really good veteran in the room. So I'm excited to see how that plays out.
I think how that dynamic will go is like those two will be the outspoken guys. KD will be able to pick his spots, and then Amen is a great player who's been there for a few years already. Like, I think that's sort of how the dynamic would work. Is KD lets those two, like you said, Fred and Jeff Green, sort of be the vets of the team, and then KD is there to be the wisdom of the scroll and just pick his spots.
Y'all are missing out Steven Adams, man.
Yeah,
that
exactly.
That man is the enforcer veteran. Any of these young whippersnappers get out of hand, he's gonna lay them down.
Yep, he'll pick him up and carry him to the sideline. That's what he'll do. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to see, there's also the fact that this is still a super young team with guys that will get better. Like Amen Thompson, I think is going to have an insane year 3. Şengün, after being an all-star, I still think he has a lot of room to improve. I mean, he's a very good offensive player and facilitator, but still really inefficient to my liking for a guy that really only spends his time in the post. Like him shooting under 50% from the field as a post player, that's got to get better. So I'm hoping that we'll get to see that more. Durant also hasn't played with a post presence like Şengün before, to my knowledge, at least a guy that was like in his prime. Like he played with old LaMarcus Aldridge in Brooklyn, like, those guys like that. But this is a young guy in his prime that is, arguably, well, before this trade, was arguably the best player on this team and an all-star in just his 4th year. So, there's going to be room for those guys to improve, and I'm excited to see how Durant will fit in with that team. Jabari Smith and Tari Eason should get better with this move as well. There's going to be a lot on those two guys. Those two guys are also extension eligible as well for the Rockets, so we'll see how much money they get. They're going to have to be careful with how they pay those guys, because you don't want to be paying too much for those guys when Jabari Smith is kind of just like a 3-and-D player at this point to stretch the floor and rebound, and Eason's just, an athletic freak that can just cause craziness and chaos out on the floor. So it's super exciting to see the Rockets go all in for this type of move, but there's still room for them to improve even with this trade, and that's what makes it so exciting.
100%. How about the Suns, though?
Yeah, let's talk about
the new GFF, possibly. Potential GFF.
The early candidate for the GFF. Let's talk about the Suns side of things. So, again, on their part, Kevin Durant, who they originally got in February of 2023 when they had to trade Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, and a whole bunch of first-round picks, end up getting back Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, the 10th pick, and 5 seconds, moving forward. Definitely not a good return considering how great Durant still is. But, I mean, there are a few things that you got to take into account here. For one, they had no leverage at all. Everyone knew that Durant was going to be traded. For 4 months, they tried dangling him at the trade deadline to Golden State. So we knew that they were going to make a move here. And, there were certain things that they wanted to prioritize. I think that when they were looking to trade Kevin Durant, they prioritized getting 3 things back. They wanted to get a talented young player, a defensive veteran that can still play and help, and a lottery pick. And from all the offers that they got, and I have a few of them here, and I'll go through them with you guys, this is the only one that had all 3 of those things. A young player, a veteran, and a lottery pick, and they also get 5 future seconds. So it's not a good return, but I think that this was probably the best offer, combining all those things together. Which says something about the stage of their team.
Yeah, I don't know. I heard that at least our team, the Cavs, I heard we were offering up Darius Garland, and I don't know if, again, if they're looking for those 3 things, yeah, you checked all the boxes, but I would much rather pair Darius Garland with Devin Booker than Jalen Green with Devin Booker. I don't know about you.
Oh, yeah. So let's go into all these other options before digging into the Suns side of things. So the 2 teams that were I guess battling against each other were the Rockets and the Miami Heat. And the Heat weren't offering a whole lot. I mean, their offers were 2 of Jaime Jaquez, Nikola Jovic, Haywood Highsmith, and the 20th pick in the draft, probably along with Andrew Wiggins, Terry Rozier, and/or Duncan Robinson to match the contracts. And they were only offering 2 of those guys together. It wasn't anything combined. So, I mean, that wasn't anything crazy here. I know Heat fans had their hopes up, but I don't think, this was much of anything, really. The Suns picked the better offer with that one.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I like the way you framed it with getting back a vet, defensive-minded vet, a young scorer, a young star, and a lottery pick. I mean, it's not, the normal face value you'd get for Kevin Durant, Hall of Famer, but he is 37. He's got, maximum 5 years left. And I think they optimized what they could with the situation they were at because, like you said, they had no leverage. But I mean, the Suns are not in a good spot. They were not in a good spot before the trade. They're not in a good spot after the trade. It's not getting any better for
No,
Phoenix.
not really. These other options, because there were a lot of other teams that had, I guess wild card suitors. The 4 wild card teams were the Cavaliers, the Toronto Raptors, the Denver Nuggets, and the LA Clippers. Cleveland, like you said, Joey, have to assume that it was Darius Garland that was offered up in the trade, which is interesting. They wouldn't have been able to pull off the trade just like that. They would have had to find places to salary dump Isaac Okoro and Dean Wade before making a trade work. Toronto probably offered RJ Barrett and Jakob Pertl. Denver probably offered Michael Porter and Zeke Naji. I don't know what the Clippers could have offered. The Raptors and Nuggets, those are just my theories of what they could have offered. And all those are pretty solid. Like you said, I probably would have taken the Toronto one. I would have probably taken the Cleveland one. But the two things are, one, if they didn't include the young player, a veteran, and a lottery pick, which is what the Suns wanted. And if Durant didn't give the confirmation that he would sign an extension, then it wouldn't be smart for these teams like the Cavs, the Raptors, or the Nuggets to make the move. That's why the Minnesota Timberwolves, I don't think, made a trade, because their offer was probably the best offer. They offered Rudy Gobert, Dante DiVincenzo, Rob Dillingham, or Terrence Shannon Jr., one of their rookies, and the 17th pick. That's pretty good return for Kevin Durant, in my opinion. But there were reports that Durant didn't want to play in Minnesota, so I'm guessing that the Wolves backed out, and that's why that didn't happen.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking too. Yeah, what the had to have been, and my thoughts really on this are for the Suns, it was all right, but I want to call it like a great trade here for him. I understand, yeah, they had to move on for Kevin Durant. Yeah, that's definitely good with this trade. I also definitely like that they got the 10th pick. That's big. Um, this is a loaded draft class. They could get someone good that could help with their future, um, in this draft. But I'm not too sure on Jalen Green. I heard that the Rockets weren't really willing to give up one of their young wings in this trade. If they would have been willing to give that up to the Suns, I would have liked that better. But I guess the Rockets were preferring to give up Jalen Green to the team, is what I heard. And the Suns, I think, just had ended up taking that. But I'm not too sure how Jalen Green's going to fit in, because the Suns have so many guards. They won't be able to move on from Bradley Beal, I don't think. And I just think it could be a weird fit. But maybe they can work something out. I don't know. Who knows? I would have wished maybe they could have gotten some more younger players in the deal, like the Miami Heat. The Suns, like the trade proposal they were thinking of with the Miami Heat, who were the runner up. And then somehow Pat Riley didn't want to do that trade. And it was, involving Jaime Hawkins, Nikola Jovic, Haywood Highsmith, and the 20th pick. I would have taken that deal if I were Pat Riley, especially with how open the East is now. But that that's what happened there. And I mean, really, I guess it fell to where this was the best way for the Suns to trade for Durant. That was really the best they could do with getting rid of him, I guess.
I have heard other things of them, like what Ben was saying. I don't know how well Jalen Green will fit either with the Suns, and I have heard rumors of them possibly rerouting him and just moving on from him right away. I don't know other suitors unless you can think of some, but I have heard that it's a possibility.
Yeah, see, other suitors, it's difficult. I mean, teams that would probably be interested, maybe New Orleans, maybe, I don't know. Milwaukee, it seems like they're going to keep Giannis, so probably not Milwaukee. Um, it's just tough, man. It's super tough with Jalen Green. And, I don't know. The fit is a little bit clunky, there with Phoenix with having, I mean, they have $177 million combined towards Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, Grayson Allen. 6 players that are all like shooting guards that can't really play other positions, or I guess wing players that they're all paying. And that's not even including Ryan Dunn, who's probably the one guy they really want to play that can play defense and, has a good mindset on that. And so they have 177 million combined to wing players. Not the best here. So that's where I'm very curious to see. Well, a
Wings
couple
are
of things.
important.
Wings are important, but you
You
don't
need
need to
wings in
pay
the
'em.
modern NBA.
But you don't need to be paying them 180 million.
The Phoenix shooting guards. They're not the Phoenix Suns or the Phoenix Buns, the Phoenix shooting guards, because that's all they can pay their players. That's the only players they're paying.
That's what it
Not
feels
ideal.
like right now.
Not ideal.
Not ideal, absolutely. But the fit, it might be a little clunky. I mean, Devin Booker is a really good playmaker. He's played the point guard the last couple of years. And for Jalen Green, I mean, he's at a spot where there's really not going to be a whole lot of pressure on him to win or for that team to win that much, even though they
He's
don't
Jordan
have their
Poole 2.0 now.
Yeah, it's kind of like Jordan Poole right now. That's kind of the situation that he is in right now.
Yep.
And we can kind of we can preview our little draft thing because that's tomorrow. Who should the Suns target with the 10th pick in the draft now? Definitely not a wing at this point, unless, I mean, it's the best player available. I mean, should the Suns target the best player available at this point, because no one is safe besides Devin Booker on this team, or no one should be a future piece on this team besides Devin Booker, or should they target center if one is available, Queen or Maliwatch, or Colin Murray Boyles if he's able to fall down there? Nick, what do you think? You're our draft expert.
Yeah, I do think there's a chance Queen slips down to 10, and that would be not only best available for sure at that point, but also a great fit for Phoenix, taking a guy who has a lot of potential with the ball in his hands. Really, he's got a lot of tools on offensive end. If he stretches his game out to the 3-point line, he'll really become like a star level threat with the ball in his hand because he can get downhill like a 6'8", 250 pounds. The best part of his game right now is finishing around the rim, and he can put it on the deck, and he can go ISO one-on-one stuff. So I think that would be a great fit. But the 2 other guys you mentioned, Murray Boyles, he's like a sort of – he's got some Draymond in him. He's a good passer, but he's a defensive sort of minded guy. I could see him down in that range. Malawatch will be gone by then, probably. But I think, either of those 2 would be a really good fit for them.
Yeah, so I guess before we move on to really getting into the draft a little bit before it kicks off tomorrow, let's give grades for the trade, as we always do with every single trade here. I'll start with the Rockets. I'm giving them an A+ on this trade because I don't think that there's any way where it can't work out. They didn't give up any really super, young, valuable players. The one that they gave up stunk in the playoffs and is on a huge contract. And if it doesn't work, then it is what it is. I mean, then they'll have more money open up next year, and they still have a super young team. For Phoenix, I mean, they were in a super tough position. They were just in a super tough position. But I think that getting the 10th pick and Dylan Brooks, who is defensive, does help them, because if there's anything that Matt Ishbia, the owner, said after the season, after a disappointing season, he wanted to completely change the way that the Suns play and their identity. No more of this, flashy basketball, because the last few years that has not worked. He wants tough guys and defensive-minded players, and they got Dylan Brooks, and with the 10th pick, they can get a guy to build with Devin Booker for the future. So for them, in that situation, I'll go with a C+. I'll go with a C+ at best for them.
I'll go with a B+ for the Rockets because I think, like you said, they didn't have to give up Jabari Smith or Cam Whitmore or Reed Shepard. They didn't have to give a whole lot up outside of Dylan Brooks and an inefficient scorer whose runway has apparently run out. And for the Suns, I'll give them a B+ for the Rockets and a B for the Suns because Not only should you have gotten some of those other guys, but yeah, I just don't know how. Like, I think they did a great job of getting those three things that you laid out: the draft pick, the lottery, a young star, and then a vet that's defensive minded.
Joey, how about you?
Rockets get an A, not an A plus, just because with how the West is, and the Rockets themselves still have holes, so it doesn't completely fix them and give them they're in that championship contender, but with how tough because of how tough the West is, but they definitely put themselves in the best position, filled a huge need, reliable, consistent, high profile scorer, bring these young kids together. I think it's a great fit. And the Suns, I am honestly so shocked. Y'all have given them such high grades. They're getting a D, in my opinion. And the only reason they're getting a D and not an F is because of that checklist you said, Miles. They got a young guy, they got a defensive guy, and they got a lottery pick. However, those aren't high standards. Come on, Phoenix Suns. And yeah, in the situation that they created for themselves, yeah, this is probably the best option. But again, they put themselves in this position. They started dangling Kevin Durant 4 months ago and couldn't find anyone and lowered his value so much. And they paid Bradley Beal all that money. Like, they literally did it to themselves. That's I just – and you didn't get much back. The 5 second-round picks, you can move it on to something else. The 10th pick is great, but it's not a superstar that you can pair with Devin Booker because they don't have another superstar. They went from possibly having 3 and now they have 1. It's just, I think they're just in a brutal position. They did it to themselves. They're not like, yeah, you're moving on from Kevin Durant and you're getting some stuff back, but it's not enough to help yourself out for the next 2 years. And the second round picks, if you hit on any of those 5s and get yourselves a Nikola Jokic, yeah, that trade obviously jumps up to like an A, but it took how long to get a Nikola Jokic and the amount of years we've had a second round NBA draft pick. So I don't have the odds are not with them. I just don't see it.
In hindsight, Suns could have probably dealt Kevin Durant last year and gotten way more. I mean, you think it's not like they were in a much better position last year. They got swept in the first round. It would have been shocking, obviously, because it was just, after year 1 of the big 3, but they would have, even at the trade deadline this year, I think they would have gotten Jabari Smith Jr. from Houston. I think they offered it to the Suns, but they didn't do it. In hindsight, they could have sent Durant to Golden State without telling him and gotten back like Kuminga or other things like that. But now they're in this situation, and it's not the best. Ben, what are your grades for this trade?
Ooh, I'm gonna go with A like Jimmy for the Rockets. Overall, great trade for Houston. Yeah, they're gonna miss the toughness with Dylan Brooks, I think, but won't be too huge of a loss. I think they'll have some other players on there that are young that will step up and bring that great toughness still for them. And Kevin Durant, that was just exactly what they needed, as I said earlier, especially offensively. They really need his scoring, and he can be that first option on that team, to start off his time on the Rockets. And
Yeah,
then for the Suns, it's a bit trickier for Phoenix, but I'm gonna give them a C plus. I think for Phoenix, yeah, it's just all right, but not great trade. I wish they could have gotten a bit more return for Durant, but I mean they needed to move on for Durant. At least they keep him up and the 10th overall pick. Yeah, those were definitely good things. Jalen Green, yeah, not a huge fan of that to the Suns. But I guess that's kind of just what they were forced into. I think it'll be a weird fit to start off with, but Yeah, I do like Dylan Brooks there because he'll give them the tough mindset and stuff. But I was wishing maybe another like young player in the deal. Maybe I think the Suns could have did better with that, and that the Suns maybe should have got a Jalen Green in the trade, but it's just kind of what they were forced into, possibly, as I said. So yeah, just okay, Phoenix.
Y'all realize that Dylan Brooks is going to be traded by the trade deadline of next season, right? Because the Suns are going to be a dog doo-doo team, and they're going to be sellers to get more picks. And Dylan Brooks might be more valuable than they got and get more stuff than what they just got for Kevin Durant.
So wouldn't
That is an
wouldn't
option.
so wouldn't that also be good?
That's what I'm saying. Like, if that happens, then obviously the grade goes up. But I don't know, man. Y'all are giving them the benefit of the doubt. It's just crazy, man.
Well, it's just because, like Ben said, they were forced into this situation, yes, from their own doing, but of the options that they had, I mean, this is the only thing that got them, I think, the 10th pick, which is the
Yeah.
key thing. That's because at the very least, if you're going to start a rebuild, you need to actually have that young player that you can start to develop. And they have Jordan Ott as their head coach, who's a good developmental head coach. And I mean, Jalen Green, we've been trashing on him a lot here, but he is only 22 years old, and he did lead a number 2 seeded team in scoring. So there is still some room there. He's still, I don't know if the runway is completely over there for him. I think he still has more to prove, obviously, and now he's in a place where he can actually figure some things out, which wasn't really the case in Houston because they were really in win now mode. You don't really have to be with the Phoenix Suns. But let's move on from that. Talked a lot about that trade. Definitely a great blockbuster to start things off. And let's talk a little bit about the NBA draft. The first round tomorrow from the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, 8 o'clock on ABC and ESPN. So much can happen. Here's the order of the first round. Still incredible that the Dallas Mavericks have the number 1 pick, Spurs 2, 76ers 3, all the tanking teams fell through there. Nick, where do you kind of want to start here with talking about this draft, going into it?
I will keep it short. Brooklyn has four first round picks, which is a lot.
Crazy.
Yes,
Yeah, 8,
It's crazy.
19, 26, and 27. So you're going to hear their name a lot tomorrow night. The other thing I'll say is that the top 2 guys, Flag and Harper, I just don't see any way that they're not, perennial all-stars. I think that they're both, super complete players, top of the line talents. I just don't see the way that they don't work out. Ben, turn your thing down.
Oh yeah, it's echoing a little bit on your phone. It's all good.
The other thing is, Kaman Malawach is my favorite player in this year's draft because he is a 7'2", 18-year-old kid from South Sudan who has only been playing basketball for like 5 years, and he's got a ton of just lob threat, two-way potential. I do think that Trey Johnson and Con Knuppel will both go in the top 5 after the top 3. VJ, I think Ace will slip down, and I think it'll be Johnson and Malawach at 4 and 5. And then Jeremiah Fears is the most underrated player, I think, in this year's draft. But Will Riley, I think, is the most he has the most potential that people are really not looking at. He's my sleeper, is Will Riley.
Yeah, I've heard his name being mentioned as a sleeper for sure to maybe go to one of those competitive teams later in the first round potentially. I think the number one question, we know that Cooper Flag is going to be a Dallas Maverick and Dylan Harper is going to be a Spur. The draft starts at number 3 with the Philadelphia 76ers because Ace Bailey, obviously an incredible tough shot maker, tons of potential, but he is turning down these draft workouts and it can be, a little wishy-washy when you're putting a lot of faith in someone that takes bad shots and asking them to take and make bad shots. So, Joey, what do you think is going to happen with the 76ers at 3, a team that is going to be in win now mode? What do you think they're going to do? Do you think Ace Bailey is going to slip further down in this draft?
I think he will not probably fall out of the top 10 because he's too talented, I think, just to do that. But I think he will slip. I think the Sixers will pass on him because they're butthurt that he turned down their workout. But I think it's just an ego thing. I think his talent is there. I think he low-key could be a really good fit for that Sixers team. One of two things are going to happen. Either they're not going to take him and he's going to turn out great, or they're going to take him and his ego is going to get the best of him and it's going to be the downfall of the Sixers. Either way, I don't see the Sixers winning this, and people are going to criticize them, a.k.a. Gocklin.
That's a good take.
Yeah, it's just very difficult because even if Ace Bailey is on that team, the Sixers are also riddled with wings as well that kind of automatically have to play. Like Paul George, you still have to play him. He had a brutal year last year, but you have to play him at least to start the season. If they re-sign Quentin Grimes, he's gonna have to play a lot because he was incredible the second half of the year. It's a 20+ point score for that team. So I've seen a lot of mocks have VJ Edgecombe end up with the Sixers, and there's a very good possibility that. Who knows? Maybe Philadelphia trades down with Ace Bailey.
VJ would be solid for them. He'd be probably their backup behind Tyrese and McCain to start because he's sort of like an off-ball, high-usage sort of two-guard. But he's the best athlete in the class, and he's a very interesting guy because he's an electric sort of defensive playmaker.
Yeah, so there's a lot of things that the Sixers could do there. I'm curious, are there any specific player team fits that you guys want to see really in the lottery or maybe later on in the first round here of this draft? Obviously, Cooper Flagg in Dallas is going to be fantastic. Dylan Harper, the Spurs, should be very good as well. But are there any other fits that you guys really want to see happen? Nick, what's the number one for you?
For me, there's two. The first one is my favorite player, Kava Malawach, going to the Wizards because I do think that him and Alex Sarr as a front court duo going forward for Washington would be a really solid template for them to build off of. You got Jordan Poole on the wing as well, and Koulibaly's there, and that's a good young core. Because Sarr and Malawach are both two-way, and Malawach isn't a stretch three yet, but they're both almost two-way stretch big men, and I think that's a really potentially dangerous template to run the NBA for a couple of years. The other one I really want to see is I want to see Noah Senge fall to 12 and land with the Bulls. I think he's after Malawach from South Sudan, the best international prospect is Noah Senge, and he's sort of in the 9 through 13 range. And if he falls to the Bulls, I think he would be a really good guy to pair with like Kobe White and their sort of backcourt talent that they got. And him and Bazelis is what I would like to see.
I like it. Joey, how about you?
I would like the Cavs to trade into the late first round and pick the best big shot maker from the national champion Florida Gators so I could get his jersey. That's my dream right there. It's the only one I'm looking out for, honestly.
That's Joey's dream right there. Maybe a little bit overzealous right there. Ben, maybe. How about you? Ben, how about you?
I'm thinking, I'm thinking the Hornets. They've picked 4. They
Trey Johnson.
Who knows? Could go big at pick 4. That could be kind of risky, but maybe because they want to move up for Burke Williams. But I'm thinking also Kai Knipple could be a good fit on the Hornets. And I didn't really think of the Hornets trading down before, which I think Nick just said, but that could be a possibility there for them. too. And then also, Nick kind of brought this up earlier, but I think for the Suns, if Derek Queen's available at pick 10, I think that would be an awesome fit on that team. Um,
I don't
he'd
think he
be
will be,
great
Ben.
for the
Sorry to
Suns
say.
if he somehow fell there.
Yeah, I mean, for the Phoenix Suns, I guess if they're able to get Derek Queen or Colin Murray Boyles, is that considered a win? Does that make this trade, the trade that they made, better if they're able to get one of those guys at 10? I mean, are there any specific guys that the Suns, Nick, you think that would really thrive with the Suns?
Okay, so not to go super crazy into it, but I really feel solid about my top 9. And then after, I have a Senge 10 right now. But the top 9 go Flag, Harper, Bailey, Edgecombe, Fears, Malawach, Johnson, Queen, Knuppel. I think those 9 are going to go first. Honestly, any way it shakes out, I think those 9 are going to be off the board by the time the Suns pick. And so they're going to have to choose from Noah Senge, Carter Bryant, Colin Murray Boyles, Kasper Siakachonis, Will Riley, Sorber, Richardson, Denman, they're going into now, Newell. I think like that's the worst pick to have in the whole draft, almost. Honestly,
Really, to be at 10. Interesting.
I mean, the way that I just spelled it out, like I really feel solid about those. If one of those top 9 guys fall out, then that's your pick, dude.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. And we've seen drafts in the past where there is random slippage and unexpected things are bound to happen. I mean, there is a chance. I feel like we say it before every draft where there could be some crazy trades. I feel like this one could be, very possible because of the specific order that we have. With so many solid teams picking in the top 10, that definitely could happen. For me personally, I really want to see Trey Johnson end up on the Utah Jazz because they are a team that they haven't really gotten anywhere over the last few seasons. I mean, they have a lot of players that are solid young guys, but they're extremely one-dimensional. Like Isaiah Collier, who they was good for them last year, really good playmaker, not a good scorer really. His defense isn't that great. Keontae George is a scorer, but he's inefficient scorer, has gotten better at playmaking. Walker Kessler is kind of just a shot blocker. Kyle Filipowski is really kind of just a solid scorer, but he's not a good rebounder for his size, not a good defender. They kind of need that go-to score, and I think Trey Johnson could give them that go-to score that they've been needing, because I think they need to go somewhere this offseason, try to unload some veterans, and I think they need to hit on this 5th overall pick here to try to get some sort of foundation going forward.
Good
Yeah.
pick.
Yeah.
Yeah, so super excited for Wednesday night's NBA draft. We will be back, I guess, on Friday to talk about everything that happens in the draft. Maybe we'll have some more crazy things that happen trade-wise or some slippage in the draft. Nick, do you have anything else on the draft before we get out of here?
No, I was just trying to. No.
All right, Joey, Ben, you have anything else before we get out of here?
Nope.
Nope.
All right, well, then let's peace out, man. Let's move on to the NBA draft. If you guys enjoyed this video, leave a like, subscribe for more NBA content. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and we'll catch you in the next one.
Peace.
Peace.
Peace.